A man walks along the streets on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, heading toward the intersection of Broad Street and Wall Street. Holding his hand and keeping pace is his 9-year-old grandson. Young Daniel Frischberg is about to get a first-hand look at the New York Stock Exchange. He doesn't realize it yet, but his destiny is to be a major player in the world of finance. What he's learned over nearly 50 years, he'll teach you today, and it's all free of charge. There's a billionaire locked inside you. The key to freedom is information, the kind of information you find here on the MoneyMan Report. Now, here's the MoneyMan. Here's Dan Frischberg.
Welcome to the MoneyMan Report. Thanks very much for joining me. This is a podcast, but it's also a radio show, so I'm going to be stopping for a break every once in a while because the radio stations that carry this have to do their commercials and they have to have their news and all of that. But if you're listening to the podcast, we're going to stop for a break. We're going to pick it up right away, and there won't be time elapsed, so we're not going to waste your time at all. But this is a very important podcast because what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over some of the fabulous opportunities for you. The other day I did a podcast that was talking about how did the Rockefeller family become so rich, and it was very simple. John D. Rockefeller thought that there was oil up in Humble, Texas, up in North Houston, and he took options on the properties to allow him to drill. He didn't have tons of money, but he had enough to make some deals, and he gave back some of the ownership of the eventual production to the people who owned the land. He made deals, and he used ingenuity, and he got options. Then he went out, and now that he had locked it up and he was the guy that was going to be able to drill it, he went out and he raised the money and did the drilling. And he ended up doing it all with other people's money, and he ended up owning a big piece of all of that production, which became Standard Oil. Now it's ExxonMobil. His family became one of the richest families in history, and they still are, and his kids and grandchildren are governors and senators and businessmen, and they can do whatever they want, all because he had that ingenuity, and then he taught it to his family. You can basically do the same exact thing. The people who think that our economy isn't fair just haven't been taught. What isn't fair is that their families never taught it to them. What was a wonderful advantage to me is my grandfather taught me how this worked, got me onto the New York Stock Exchange when I was a young kid. But even in third grade, in my Hebrew school, my English teacher, my regular teacher, taught me about the opportunities. I don't think she ever used the word capitalism. She just said, in this country, it's wide open. You can do whatever you want. The only thing that matters is, are you doing things that people care about and that benefit them? And if you are, you're going to get rewarded. And the more you do it, the more you're going to get rewarded. And the smarter you do it, the more you're going to get rewarded. Bottom line is, no matter what color, creed, origin, or what you believe, there are companies that are doing important things. They're doing it better than the company you work for. So when I do a talk on a cruise or something, I start out by saying, I hope you love what you're doing, because I'm going to show you how to make more money than you make working. Keep doing what you're doing if you're helping the world, but that's not how you get rich. Here's how you get rich. There are companies that are fabulous companies. They're right in the right place at the right time. They've got all the resources in the world, and they're doing things that people want and need, and they're growing tremendously. And I can own a piece of that company, and I can use enormous leverage to own more of that company. I can buy the stock for $100, but I can also put down $5 and own 20 times as much of that stock. So if I had $1,000 and the stock is at 100, instead of owning 10 shares of that stock. I can be putting down $5 a share, and I can be owning 100 shares or 200 shares of that stock. So instead of it being $1,000 worth of stock, I'm owning $100,000 worth of that same company. When I say own, it means I'm benefiting as that company grows and becomes worth 2 or 3 times what it was. I'm benefiting from the growth of $100,000 worth of that company instead of a couple of $1,000s worth of the company. It's making me rich and my family rich. I can buy it and sell it whenever I want to, but all I had to do was have the brains and ingenuity to do it. So right now, think about the opportunities. We're coming out of COVID at whatever pace, and all these stupid headlines about how slow it's going, and this country doesn't have it, and this country doesn't have it, and they're not doing it right here, and they're not doing it right here. Within the next couple of years, COVID is not going to matter in this world. And we're rebuilding the world. And think about what's happening. I've talked about on this podcast before about the opportunity that you can have. Everybody in the world needs more copper. And right now, they're having to buy a lot of it from me. And I'm owning my copper by owning 20 times the money that I had to buy into shares of that copper company, Freeport-McMoRan, because I used ingenuity and I was smart. And if you want to know how to do this, I have a video that normally costs $100 for you to watch that video. And you used to have to wait until I did the webinar. Now it's a video. It's up on the MoneyMan.com. It's free to you, and you get immediate gratification. You can watch it right away. All you have to do is register for it and watch it immediately. So it tells you how to do all this stuff. But let's think about the companies that are doing great stuff. They don't need you, but you can own them, and the world wants it and needs it. So Freeport-McMoRan Copper, the copper and gold, they've locked in deals all over the world in some of the best copper mines. And every bit of copper that anybody knows about right now is owned. So what's happening is the copper that they own and that they're selling to people all over the world, it used to be worth $2 a pound. Now it's $4.50 a pound. And even when it goes to $7 or $8 a pound, the world's not going to be able to produce more copper. Why do we need copper? Because they need to wire electrically China, Vietnam, people all over Southeast Asia. There's 1 billion people in India that are going to get electricity, that are going to wire their houses, and they're going to be using copper, and they're going to be buying lots of it from me, and I'm getting to use enormous leverage. And so as the value of my Freeport-McMoRan Copper Company becomes not $25, but as it becomes $50 and $100 a share, all of that copper, all of those shares that I own, that I bought using a lot of other people's money, that I bought using ingenuity, are growing enormously. So even though I might have only put $10,000 of my money into ownership, it's representing $200,000 worth of that copper company. And I can tell you that over the last year, if you owned these long-term, multi-year options on Freeport-McMoRan Copper, just like the employees own, just like what John D. Rockefeller did to own the oil leases, if you did that, you made 30 times your money in just a year, more than 30 times your money. You turned $5,000 into $150,000 in 1 year. You didn't have to go to work there. It was easy. And the world needed and wanted what you were selling. And it was all locked up and properly managed. Now, think about this. Those people that are getting electricity in India and wiring their houses with copper that I'm making money on, those people are connected to the internet now. And in order for Amazon to be able to sell stuff to them on their cell phone, like they can do with me, I can buy sneakers. I just did it the other day. I bought a pair of sneakers while waiting in a parking lot. I used my telephone, signed on to Amazon, bought a pair of sneakers. It was delivered to me the next day. They want to be able to do that in Vietnam. They want to be able to do it in Laos. They want to be able to do it in Brazil. And they're being able to do it because all of these companies that are in the cloud, that are reaching people all over the world, need to be able to use these devices. I'm not going to go into the details of it, but the best company that lets them have all their stuff stored in the cloud, but then get immediately locally to all those people all over the world. They're doing it because they've got servers set up all over the world, and their software allows that information to go directly from the cloud, directly to those people, load right away. It's very convenient. If you want to understand what I'm talking about, remember that if you wanted to watch Netflix 5 years ago, you had to wait for a half an hour for that video to download into your television or into your computer because the internet was set up so slowly. Now it's not that the internet's fast, it's that they're using software. They're using Fastly software. They've got servers all over the world, and they've got software that makes it come out of the cloud and be close to you. And the minute you hit it, you get it right away. Everybody in the world needs to be able to do that. The best way to do it is by Fastly, and the stock of Fastly is down enormously because there's a bunch of wrong information circulating. Do you know that there are money managers and hedge fund operators who purposely circulate bad information because they want to short? They want people to sell it. They want it to go down. They sell the company short, or they buy put options on it. And when the company goes down and people are dumb enough to believe what they're reading, because why? Because they don't know anything about the company they're investing in. They're just trying to guess what everybody else is going to do. So they stupidly sell it because they read this dumb thing online or they heard it on television. They sell it, the price goes down, and then those smart hedge fund guys go in and buy that $100 company for $40 because all those people sold it because they heard on television these rumors or they read about it. Bottom line, that company, Fastly, is a company that you can read up on. I don't want you to go out and buy companies because you hear about them here on my podcast. What I want you to do is use your brains. I got to stop for a little break, and I'm going to be right back with you and talk to you about more ideas of companies that you can make a lot of money on right away. Be right back.
Each week in his live video market and economy update offered to his inner circle, Dan Frischberg delivers the in-depth, professional version of his famous Market X-ray report, live and interactive. Now that means you get to ask all the questions you want. And if you can't make the live meeting, you can watch the report on demand. Then email your questions in and Dan will email the answers back or include them in the next live report. Week in and week out, Dan brings you the ideas and specific stock picks from his friends, the people you see on TV and read about in the papers. You'll see what they're buying, how they're hedging, and when they're taking money off the table. At last, you'll get to see how the insiders negotiate the institutional macro bonds that billionaires on Wall Street rely on, the ones almost everyone else never even heard of. When you become an Inner Circle member, Dan will share with you his lifetime of experience and guide you to the best teachers, the best stock pickers, the best option strategists. And you'll be invited to exclusive working vacations in beautiful locations for the Inner Circle only, where you'll rub elbows with some of the most famous investors on Wall Street. So, how do you value the lifetime of skill and experience of a top investor on a mission to share it all with you and help you become one of the few winners? If you've been listening to Dan for a few years, he's likely already made you tons of money, or even more important, saved you from losing a fortune. Now, there are limits to the capacity of the online video sessions, but right now, for a limited time, Dan's offering you the position of charter subscriber, get this, for less than the price of a cup of coffee a day. For all the info or to subscribe, just simply click on themoneyman.com. Themoneyman.com.
You're tuned in to the MoneyMan Report with your host, TV and radio money man, Dan Frischberg. For more information about everything we're talking about, go to themoneyman.com right now. That's themoneyman.com.
Welcome to the Money Man podcast. If you want to be able to know the things that I'm showing you how to do here, all you got to do is watch the free video that I have set up on the moneyman.com. It used to cost $100. It will again, but right now this is an emergency. We're coming out of COVID. This is your opportunity to get rich. And as we're coming out of COVID, think about all the steel they're going to use. What are they going to do? They're going to reclaim a bunch of old beat up steel. They're going to make rebar out of it. And they're going to be doing infrastructure building all over the world. Commercial Metals is a company that goes and salvages all that old iron and steel, makes it into rebar, makes it into steel products. And the world needs it and wants it, and you can actually buy shares of it and learn how to buy them using maybe 5% or 10% down and owning much, much more of that company than you would be able to buy if you went and bought the stock at full price. And you can learn how to do that on themoneyman.com by watching my very simple video. It will teach you everything you have to know. And right now you can do it for free. And this is an emergency, folks, because we're rebuilding the world right now. There's another company. It's called Cleveland Cliffs. Many people that follow my inner circle owned Cleveland Cliffs 10 years ago. But right now, Cleveland Cliffs is a company that just bought the Indian steel company. It was owned by the Indians, but there's an American version of it. It was ArcelorMittal. Well, Cleveland Cliffs bought that and made them the biggest producer of steel. And they're making rolled steel. And it's the kind of steel that car companies need to buy. It's the kind of steel that everybody really needs to buy. And there aren't that many places to buy it. And they're the best supplier of it. They've also managed, because of the economies of scale, to really lower their expenses. That company, Cleveland Cliffs, is getting much, much more profitable than they've ever been. And I can own Cleveland Cliffs. And as the world rebuilds, as America rebuilds, but it's not only America, folks. You know about America rebuilding, but it's happening in Europe, and it's going to happen in Asia. It's going to happen in Africa. Think about all the steel they're going to need to build those buildings, and to put rebar, and to build the foundations and all those framing members for all those high rises that they're going to be building all over the world. A lot of it, they're going to be driving up the price of that steel. They're going to be buying more and more, and they're going to be buying it from Cleveland Cliffs. And I own much, much more money of it than I have the money to buy, because I'm using this very simple and smart technique of being able to own 20 times that amount by putting down maybe 5 or 10% of the price of that stock and benefiting from it right now. So if I own a $20 stock, I'm actually able to buy into it for $2 per share instead of $20 a share. If I had $1,000, instead of buying 50 shares, I'm owning 500 shares of it, which means it's $50,000 worth of that company, even though I only put a couple of $1,000s worth of it. I did it using leverage the same way John D. Rockefeller did it, and the same way you can learn about by watching a very simple video. Bottom line, I'm telling you the companies that are going to make you a fortune if you're smart. I'm doing this on a podcast. It's free. Why am I doing this? Because I want to change the world, because I want more people to understand our capitalist system, because all it is free economy. It's open to everybody. All you got to do is use your brains, but you also have to give yourself permission to get rich. If you grew up poor, you may think that this is unrealistic. You can't do it. Well, in this country, you can do it, and it's wide open for you. So owning that steel company, Cleveland Cliffs, is one really, really good way to do it. Now, supposing you go log into your brokerage account, or you log in. Now, people all over the world are doing that. In America, you can do it. In India, they're just getting electricity, but they're going to be able to do it. And you know what's going to happen? As you log in, they say to you, are you still at the same phone number? Because we're going to text you a number. And when you put that 6-digit number in here, we're going to know it's you. You're going to be able to log into your account. And you're going to be able to connect, because we are built on a platform that ties together text and email and all these different things about you, all these different ways to communicate. We are just a brokerage firm, but because we're built on that platform, we're very, very convenient for you, and you can communicate with us, and everything is really easy for us to do, and it's easy for you to do. Well, the best software as a service that they're able to log onto is a company called Twilio. Because of the fact that the world has been selling off, stocks go up and down. The reason that I am able to make so much money in the stock market and have been able to do it all my life is because when I was 14 years old, an old man on the New York Stock Exchange taught me. He said, why do you think, if this thing's been going up 150 years in a row, this stock market's been going up for 150 years? How is it possible that these people aren't making a lot of money? Why isn't everybody rich? I said, I give up. I said, because they don't know that it's about buying individual companies, and that some companies are worth owning. Most companies are not worth owning. And they don't bother to know what company they're buying. They're not entrepreneurs. They're gamblers who are trying to guess what everybody else is going to do and find the easy way. They're not making any contribution to the world. They're just trying to guess what everybody's going to do and scalp money out of the stock market. They don't do anything. Most of them end up losing money, and their family makes them stop. In the long run, if I own a company that's doing something fabulous and everybody in the world wants it, and I'm able to own that company, I make more and more money. If I did it using other people's money and I own thousands of shares of it, I get rich, and my family may be rich forever. And my kids will go to good schools, and I will live in good places. And all of that happened because I gave myself permission to do it, and then somebody actually taught me how to do it. The company that these platforms, that TD Ameritrade and brokerage firms and everybody is built on, is a company called Twilio. Because these people are trying to guess what's going to happen in the stock market, the stock's been going down. And I can tell you, if you watch how much money the company you own is making, I can tell you for sure that 100% of the time, if you understand how much money that company is making and you own the company, The stock price eventually is going to catch up with how much money the company's making. If you bought that stock with other people's money and you own 20 times as much of that stock as you had the money to do, it will make you rich. But you have to, this is not about you being comfortable. That stock is going to go up and down. You know why? Because the people who are buying and selling that stock are idiots, and they don't know anything about the company they're buying. They're selling it because other people are selling it. They're buying it because other people are buying it. They're lemmings. You know what lemmings are? They're little animals who follow the leader because they live in the tundra and they want to be in a place where there's food. And of course, in the snow there's no food. They're these little animals that look like squirrels. So what happens is they don't really try to kill themselves. That's a rumor. What happens is that the leader of this group of lemmings realizes that there's not enough food and he wants to go and find more food. But he's never done it before. He doesn't know anything, but he's the leader. And he says, come on, let's go and buy more food. Let's find more. Let's find food. So the other lemmings who are in his group, they follow him. Why does the back guy go? Because the other people are following. They're all a herd and they're all following each other and they're all hoping that somebody knows where the hell they're going. And the bottom line is none of them know where they're going. They may get lucky and find food, or they may drown themselves by trying to cross this lake and they can't really swim, or they fall off a cliff. None of them know where the hell they're going. Some of them find their way and some of them don't. The reason lemmings survive over the generations is because they have to have a very low population. They live in the tundra where there's no food. They need to be in a group who most of them are dying. This is why people don't make money in the stock market, because they think they're buying stocks and they think they're gambling and they're trying to watch charts and they're guessing what everybody else is going to do. And 95% of them end up losing money. Some of them get lucky. But every single entrepreneur who owns a company that is doing things people want and need and doing it profitably, and its sales are growing and its profits are growing over the years. Every single company like that that's publicly traded, the stock goes up eventually and it makes the owners rich because they stick with it, just like entrepreneurs do. Stick with their company and don't worry if it's fluctuating in the short term. This is me showing you how to do this. And I'm showing it to you for free. And if you want to learn more about how to access more of these companies for less money, using what you've got to make yourself rich, go to themoneyman.com and watch the video that will pop up. And then you can read all about me and you can read all about my company and everything. But you can watch that video right away. It's on the front page. Themoneyman.com, one word. Thank you very much. There are tons more companies. And if you keep listening to my podcast next time, I'm going to tell you about more of them.
You've been listening to the sound of your money growing. This has been the Money Man Report with your host, radio and TV money man, Dan Frischberg. Hear it again every weekday morning here on Bradenton's WWPR, broadcasting worldwide. It's Better Living Radio.